come up on top saying that it's being recorded, then you can go ahead.
Okay. Okay, welcome to the Bicycle Advisory Committee Engineering Subcommittee. And today we have 3 items up. I'm going to read a notice real quick before we get started. Members of the board may participate remotely by telephone or other electronic means due to the local public health emergency, novel coronavirus pandemic, pursuant to the provisions of Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021. All right. So our first, and I don't know that people are here yet. I'm hoping they are. We have 3 things to talk about on our agenda. The first one is the Upper Harbor Terminal. Is Alexander here?
Yes, I am.
All right, Alexander. It's going to be Alexander Cato, Nathan Koster, Ahmed Omer. They are Minneapolis Public Works. And then Sierra Shingley and Chris Bauer. I hope I didn't mess it up. From Tulu.
Ciara won't be with us today.
Okay. Well, so anytime you're ready to start.
Okay. I'll get started. I just got to share my screen. I'm going to do that now. Can folks see my screen?
Yep.
All right. Let me just put it in the slideshow. It's interesting, when I put it in slideshow mode, it goes to my other screen, which you all can't see. So I'll just do it like that. Okay. So hi everyone, I'm Alexander Cato. I'm a transportation planner in Public Works, the public realm infrastructure engagement lead for Upper Harbor Terminal. With me, I have Ahmed Omar, who's the project engineer, Nathan Koster, the overall lead from a public works standpoint for the infrastructure, and then Chris Bauer from Tool Design, who's been helping us very much so with a lot of our engineering design work. There's a lot to cover. I think most of this group has seen some of our previous efforts around the Upper Harbor Terminal and the concepts. I would say not a ton has really changed. We've just kind of further evolved those designs that we've showed you at 0% and 10%. The biggest overall change is 33rd Avenue North. That's changed quite a bit based upon the feedback we received from the BAC and PAC when we engaged with you all earlier this spring. So like I said, we have a lot of content to cover. I'll try to go through this quickly, but please ask questions as we go through. There's 4 to 5 different sections of roadway we're reviewing, and just ask questions as you have them. So this is the overview of the project area. Dowling is the blue line. All of this is going to be reconstructed. The bridge will not be formally reconstructed, but we are doing some improvements on the bridge. Phase 1 of the parkway is in the dark green, and then the yellow is 33rd Avenue North. Construction on all of these pieces starts in 2023, so just under 2 years away. We've done quite a bit of engagement. We did our first round of engagement in January 2021. And have been doing engagement on this project with CPED for a number of years, starting with Above the Falls Master Plan. We've hosted a variety of open houses and events, and I'm sure many of you have been involved in some of those in some capacity. To really highlight what we've heard, from engagement when it comes to infrastructure is really just prioritizing bicycle and pedestrian movements. Obviously, Dowling, getting over I-94 is quite a challenge. And so we were really tasked with how do we really accommodate non-motorist users across the bridge and then into the site. Also, we were able to work on some of the public art pieces as well, and did a lot of coordination with the forecourt around the park as well. So it's just a really exciting project. This is just the concerns. Congestion was also an issue that was voiced by some folks, as well as bike ped safety. Just going to keep moving through to show you Upper Dowling. This is just a few more suggestions around improving art, improving the public realm, providing these more just as a FYI for folks. So we're just going to hop into Dowling. So this is Upper Dowling. We call it Upper Dowling because it's at a higher elevation. This is on the western side of the bridge. You can see this is Lindell Avenue North right here. And then this is 6th Street North. And this is right before I-94. I always get these confused. One of these is 4th and one of these is 6th. I always flip them around, so my apologies. One interesting thing to note, this was not even in the scope of the UHT project. When Nathan and I got on board, we did some analysis and realized that, obviously Dowling being the primary access point, and this area of Dowling didn't have the best pavement condition, had on-street bike lanes, no boulevard, sidewalk back to curve, so just a lot of room for improvement. So we added it to the scope for this project, and we're glad we did. The further west of here, we're going to be planning to put into our CIP in future years. So this treatment that we have here with the shared use path on the south side will likely extend all the way to Theoworth Park. But that's further along in the CIP, but the design treatment that we're doing here is done with the intention of kind of a long-term plan of how this area will look and how folks will travel to and from the site. So on the south side, we have a shared use path, 10 feet. On the north side, we have a 6-foot sidewalk. We were really constrained with the space we had. We wanted to definitely provide separated facilities for cyclists because as of now, it's a bike lane on the street. This is a high volume street, 15,000 vehicles a day. And a bike lane on the street is just not our go-to design standard moving forward. So we went with the shared use path to facilitate those movements, understanding we have still a very constrained right of way. We're also able to add in boulevard spacing. Some sections are 4 feet, which is about the minimum for tree plantings, but some sections are upwards of 7 feet like here. And here we even have 11 feet. So there will be some boulevard plantings and improvements. Also some nice improvements on the south side. We'll have some raised crossings at this location here and at this location here. I'm sure this group is well aware and familiar with those, but those just provide a design cue to motorists that they're entering a space with cyclists and pedestrians and that they should drive at a safe speed. We're also including a truck apron here for motorists coming off of the freeway. It helps us shorten the crossing distance, still provides the turning movements needed for some of the larger vehicles. I ran through that pretty quickly. Just want to give space for Nathan, Ahmed, or Chris if there's any other design details that I missed on the upper Dowling section.
Thanks, Alexander. I just want to apologize to the group, given the timing of when this submittal was due so that it was available to everyone in advance of this meeting. There is a mislabeling. So the travel lanes on Dowling are not 11 feet, they are 10 feet. So there is an instance on a couple sections just given the versioning control. So if you see the materials at the open houses and our open events that we have in the coming weeks, just there will be a difference there. So they're in fact 10 feet on Dowling, and there'll be a few instances, and apologize for that discrepancy.
One other thing I just wanted to mention briefly, we're working through the design of the raised crosswalks at the I-94 ramps with MnDOT. These would very possibly be the first raised crosswalks MnDOT has ever done on the trunk highway system. So we really want to make sure we get those details right. And that's a necessary detail to make sure that these happen. So just be aware that we're having those conversations still with MnDOT in terms of what that looks like and how we can make that work. Because this would again be the first time MnDOT has ever done anything like this.
I'm going to keep moving along because we're already 10 minutes in. So you'll see the shared use path on the south side that continues. Once we cross the I-94 entrance ramp, you'll see that it actually transitions into a two-way cycle track and then a sidewalk. I'll show you this slide. So this is the Dowling Bridge. So you'll see this two-way cycle track. The width of that cycle track is 12 feet. And then we're going to have adjacent to that a 7-foot sidewalk that's existing. And then to the north, we'll have that 7-foot sidewalk. So, this is a section where the bike and pedestrian facilities are separated because we have the space to accommodate that. This facility transition continues pretty much all the way into the site. You'll see once we get to this intersection crossing, there's another raised crossing, some green marking for motorists, and then you'll see that continuation of the separated sidewalk and the separated two-way cycle track. A few other things to note here. We did quite a bit of, I don't know if this is the technical term, but reskewing of the intersection to organize it a little better. If you've been out to that area before, you can see the vehicle lane alignments and just the intersection in general is a little problematic. The crossing distances are a little tricky. So we are realigning that intersection to just aid in movement for all users, motorists, cyclists, pedestrians, etc. We're also adding in some north and south bike facilities as well. These will connect into the Weber Camden 44 project that's further north. I think the construction of that is going on next year, if I'm correct. And then to the south, we have the cycle facility as well that'll extend into 2nd Street north. I know I went really quick. Going to give space to the rest of my team if they have any comments on this piece.
So I'll just clarify a couple of things that I think this group may find interesting. So we are bringing that two-way bicycle trail separated from the sidewalk at the bridge. We are constrained with an existing bridge. We're talking millions and millions of dollars to rebuild that. That would be on solely the city's cost. So we're trying to do our best with that space of the existing bridge deck. The one thing we are pushing with MnDOT to try to get is, unlike striping sticks with a over the bridge, we are trying to get a vertical curb in there on the bridge deck, so we have more protection over this busy bridge while also separating it from people walking. One other thing that did come up is the inside pedestrian ramp crossing. Typically we'd want to try to push for that on both sides of the bridge where there'd be pedestrian crossings at all 4 legs. However, we're right where his cursor, Alexander's cursor, is on that east side of the bridge. We were unable to fit a pedestrian crossing because of the grades. Basically, if we tried to create a ped ramp there, it'd basically be the low point and pool all the water, and you get a lot of snow, ice, debris accumulation there. So we tried our best to try to fit that in, the pedestrian crossing at all 4 legs, but we were just unable to get it due to the physical location and grades with the bridge right there. We really would like that, but just without rebuilding the bridge, we were unable to get that crossing right there. Chris, did I capture that correctly?
Yeah. Yep. The existing grade on the roadway is 5.5%. It's over the maximum allowable grade of 5%. So we would have to do something very untraditional, switchbacks or something, unusual there to make this work and still pick that up out of the gutter flow line.
I'm going to keep speeding through because we still have quite a bit to cover. Next section is lower Dowling. Like I said, we call it lower Dowling because it's at a lower grade than the west side of Dowling. You can see this intersection that was in the last slide. You also see that two-way bike facility continuing east into the site. You see the separated sidewalk. More boulevard spacing here for some nice plantings. I think this illustration on the bottom relatively accurately captures what this space could look like when it's developed. We do have, 2 active rail crossings here. The inventory we did, it's about a maximum of 5 crossings a week. So pretty low volume, but still by MnDOT standards, we had to put in active gate guards and warning devices here. So we're doing those in compliance with MnDOT rail to ensure that, everyone using these facilities is safe. That's why you'll also see these medians here as well, so that vehicles would not try to do something dangerous like drive around the gates and weave into traffic to get past the train. So just ensuring that we have all the necessary safety features here for those events when trains do arrive, like I said, roughly 5 times a week at the most. And then from here, you'll see that the Dowling transitions into the UHT Parkway. We have a potential raised intersection, and then this is kind of the north and south legs of the parkway. Chris, do you want to just talk a little bit about that raised intersection piece here, just so folks have a little more context around that?
Yeah, the goal with the raised intersection, you don't see it on this driveway, but envision a park on the other side of that intersection. And we want to try and convey some design continuity. Thank you. Kind of into that park and show that this is all connected and make this feel more linear. The idea with the raised intersection is to make that entire area walkable and be kind of a gateway into the park is kind of the design intent with that.
Nathan, anything else to add or Ahmed before I go to the next slide? Keep cruising through. This is, so in the packets, this is actually the next slide. I'm going to skip this one and go to the Parkway, and then we'll come back to 33rd just from a logical standpoint. So this is, where Chris was talking about that raised intersection, and then you'll see phase 1 of the UHT Parkway in red. I realize this color is a little darker than the parkways typically are, but just know that the parkway will have that red granite chip seal that you're very familiar with around the city. It'll travel north over here and end in a cul-de-sac. This is where parcels 1A and 1B will be. So that's a private development. The park will be here. The music concert venue will be here. And then some of the other developments will be here as well. And then you can still see the bike and pet facilities continuing north and south along the parkway. And these are 10-foot travel lanes as well, a 10 to 12-foot two-way bike facility. There will be some parking in these little cutout sections here along the parkway, in line with the way the park board typically designs their parking facilities on the parkway. It's still a minimum of parking. We do understand there's a need to provide access to all types of modes and users, but we are being respectful and trying to prioritize bikes and peds. And I think one other thing just to add, along the parkway, this is a visualization, but it kind of shows you the priority. Pedestrians have the really nice views, then followed by the cyclists and those rolling, and then the motorists are a bit further away and you see the vehicle driving there. So it really does show kind of that prioritization of the parkway. We didn't indicate the design of the bikeway and pedestrian facility within the park. That's going to be further defined by the park board, so we did not include that in this visualization. Am I missing anything, Nathan, Ahmed, Chris? I'm going to the next slide, which is 33rd Avenue. So this is 33rd Avenue. We went to the BAC and PAC. I think it was in April, but I don't know. Like my perspective of time is a little foggy with this last year of COVID and whatnot. But we came to the PAC and BAC with two concepts because we were very space constrained in this area. One concept had a wider shared use path on the north and with some boulevard, but did not have a sidewalk. And I would say the BAC and PAC were pretty unanimous in that they unanimously supported that a sidewalk on the south side was essentially a requirement, in that they wanted to have pedestrian facilities on both sides of the road. So we went back to the drawing board, worked things out with the design team, engaged with the stakeholders here, which are heavy to light industrial manufacturers. And we're able to add in the sidewalk on the south side. You'll see it here. The width varies, but does at a minimum meet that 6-foot pedestrian, that 6-foot par, and then also a few extra feet for signage and lighting. To the north, we do have the shared use path at 10 feet. Both of these connect into the roundabout. We have two 10-foot travel lanes and an 8-foot median. The 8-foot median is a new addition on 33rd. We originally had a much narrower roadway width, and when we went out onto the site to test it out, it just didn't work. There's a lot of truck activity on this street. When we were out there was even sometimes a dozen trucks, large 53-foot trucks navigating through this space, accessing this driveway, these driveways as well. And we just didn't really feel that there was a safe way to design the street without providing that median. So what you're seeing here is a larger roadway width for vehicles than we had previously shown. Like I said, we went out, did field tests, chalked up the streets. We're out there with trucks, seeing the turning movements, and this is the best way we could accommodate all modal users to this area. So I'm sure there's a lot of questions on that. We also did include a roundabout, which is relatively similar to what you've seen in the past. This is to facilitate vehicle turning movements, especially this roadway here does connect into the private development, into the light industrial facility. So they'll be using this this road to confirm the turning movements and then to get out on Third Avenue. Chris, Nathan, Ahmed, anything else to add on that before we open it up to questions from the group?
From a bicycle's perspective, one of the key things we wanted to watch out for was the skew angle with the railroad tracks. These have a pretty high skew angle. All of the bicycle crossings of the railroad are 60 degrees or sharper, which is what AASHTO recommends to avoid slipping into the flangeways on the railroad. So that's something we watched out for when we were designing this.
We have a few more slides on green stormwater infrastructure, but I'd rather like to pivot and just see if folks have comments or questions, and then if we have more time, we can cover those. They're important, but I want to, prioritize this group's desire to talk about some of the bicycle facilities and see if they have questions on that.
Thank you. I don't see any hands yet. Anybody have questions? Phil?
Yeah, just a quick question. I remember this is back to Upper Dowling. So it's a 10-foot shared use path with the on the south side of Dowling with the divider at the 5 in the middle. Is that the plan?
Are you talking about Upper Dowling or the bridge, Bill?
Way west of the west. Dowling as far west as the project goes over to.
This is Lindell.
Lindell.
Yeah, so this would be a 10-foot shared use path. I'm not certain, Nathan, where we're at now on striping. Are we centerline striping the shared use paths, or are we just leaving them unmarked? I know that's been there's been a bit of back and forth on what our new policy around or approach around that is.
Yeah, we'd have to double check with traffic because we are looking at best practices from not only locally, regionally, across the country of how to best design, stripe, what have you for these. Currently on the Johnson project in Northeast that's being built as a shared use path, we're taking the approach of having it signed with biking and walking signage on the gateway to each block. And we'd be looking at that on this project too, but just have to confirm that detail with our traffic staff. But as of now, we'd be looking to have signage as compared to striping.
Oh, okay. I know there's been some discussion about just a dashed line in the middle, knowing that bicyclists obviously are going to range over across the striping, but signage, I've seen it certainly work too, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely up for more discussion internally. But like Nathan said, the Johnson Street project is going in right now. It'll be done this summer, so we'll definitely have some lessons learned from that implementation that'll help guide this future reconstruction, which will be 2 years out from now.
Great, yeah, sounds good.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Anyone else with any questions? Joey?
Yeah, I had a question about Washington Avenue there, right on the east side of the 94 bridge. It looked like there is a
Sorry.
get it for a second, no problem. So it looks like there's a two-way bike lane continuing north on Washington, and it's only separated for a little bit. Would that then be painted as a two-way? Even just paint protected all the way up to where Washington crosses 94 again, or is there going to be a rough transition for southbound bikers?
The intent would be to have striped and with delineators up to the Lindale 41st intersection. We'd likely be doing a seal coat project to get rid of any lane scarring for the striping. We did do a change order with Hennepin County on the Weber 44 project. In the previous layout, they had it transitioning to directional on-street lanes at Lindale and 41st. But for those of you familiar with that project that went through this committee a couple of years ago, it will now stay on the west side of Lindale at 41st as a two-way bikeway, come around the corner on the bridge and then tie into this project. So there will now be a continuous path once this project is done from Dowling, I think 9 miles connecting way into Brooklyn Center. So we found this as like a really great short-term win to connect more people to Upper Harbor as well as greater North Minneapolis.
That sounds great. Thank you.
That is awesome. Anybody else with any questions? Okay, so guys, I'm not seeing anybody else with their hand up. Did you want to finish up that other part, Alexander?
Absolutely. So this is, like I said, there's a lot of pieces to Upper Harbor Terminal. One of the most critical ones is the green stormwater infrastructure component. We've been, designing and working around, what that will be for this site. And we've done a lot of work with the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization, the Park Board, and also private development to reach a district system to help clean, treat, and potentially reuse runoff from the site before it enters the Mississippi River. So this is a 50-acre site, and we are using the water to infiltrate into the underground of the Mississippi River. Some of the water here may receive a higher level of treatment than others. We're still exploring that, but we are proposing a district system within here, which includes a variety of treatments such as rain gardens, swells, stormwater wetlands, stream-like channels, and underground filtration systems to handle all the stormwater. From a surface level, you will likely see things more like this. This is Heritage Park in Minneapolis, on the edge of North Minneapolis. This is the Stormwater Plaza at 8th Street and Riverside Avenue. So these are the type of, things that you would likely see as a visitor to the site. It's adjacent to the right-of-way, a variety of different treatments. So I would say the takeaway to this group is just knowing that there's going to be a district-wide stormwater system to treat the stormwater runoff. It's still in the design stages. We've been working with, like I said, MWMO, the Park Board, and the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization to really deliver a really exciting system for the public.
So this is a really innovative public-private partnership through a combination of easements and design to more holistically treat stormwater in the area. As Alexander said, 50 acres. The only local precedent we have of something like this would be in the Towerside district over by the U of M. So this is a very strong collaboration where we're able to say private water, park board water, city water, and better utilize the space so we can have more greening and we can fit more in this area and achieve a combined goal of having improved water quality when it does go into Mississippi and potentially using it for on-site irrigation or other things. So typically this is a pretty detailed element that follows through before construction, but we thought it was such a innovative idea that this group would be interested in understanding how that comes together for a cohesive design and aesthetic for the broader site while advancing a lot of environmental goals that we have for Upper Harbor and the city as a whole.
And then to conclude, so round 2 engagement is starting this month. We have an open house on August 24th on Tuesday. We're targeting layout approval in October and the construction starting in 2023. And the infrastructure construction will start in 2023. The private development will likely start, shortly after that and continue for the following years. So yeah, 2 years from now, you'll start seeing a lot of activity at that area.
So are you guys planning on coming back to talk to us again, or is this our only visit?
This is it. This is our 30%. We're going to be using our round 2 engagement and the open house to get additional feedback and incorporate any additional tweaks into the design, but we are not anticipating to return to this group unless there's significant changes.
Okay, Dan Miller?
Yep, hi. Yeah, going back to the Dowling Avenue over 94 photo there, or illustration, just a question regarding MnDOT and what they're doing with 252. I'm not sure how far they're going down, but is MnDOT involved at all with any of these improvements on Dowling?
They're a project partner, but given the current timeline for the environmental review on 25294, they haven't advanced any new bridge or design elements that would currently impact what we're planning here. If that does happen or those plans change in the future, we'd be more than happy to work with them to either bring their funding or new designs here to, further transit or whatever they may do in the corridor. But right now, they're mainly reviewing our designs and are a strong partner in helping us achieve the goals that we want along Dowling.
Yeah, I guess my question with MnDOT maybe refers to some of the other bridge crossings. 53rd, I think, is going to be looked at for bike improvements. Of course, all the way from 53rd down to Plymouth, some of those crossings are 41st and 26th are, not the nicest crossings. And if there was a way that MnDOT could be involved, perhaps in some similar way, how they've done 94 and 35W South. I know those were total replacements, but I just was wondering if there might be a chance that they could be involved with improving any of that. So it's more of a question for you if you've heard anything.
Yeah, we've been working with them for quite a few years now. They don't have any maintenance plan for this bridge for 15 years, give or take 10 to 15 years for maintenance. And then beyond that, a replace, they had said 30, 40 years out in the future. So from a pure maintenance perspective, we'd asked, that's not on the table. But if something comes out of 25294 that would change that, we're all ears and we're ready to work with them. But as of now, the question's been asked and they've said no.
Okay. And then about the public art coordination on this, are there any thoughts what would go on here?
Yeah, so I didn't put that slide in this deck. I should have in hindsight or included it as an appendix because it is a big piece. So we've been working around, with Mary Altman and CPED and then with Juxtaposition Arts to develop art concepts. We don't have anything for the bridge. There just wasn't a real opportunity to provide any art on the bridge without replacing the railing, and then replacing the railing will require us to replace most of the bridge structure. So it ended up almost becoming a bridge rebuild and just wasn't really practical. But we are proposing some art along Dowling closer to this parking lot area over here along this railing, some concrete sketchings along Dowling, and then a lot of different art within the site. At the open house, we will be providing a bit more context and details on that. I just was a little strapped on time for this presentation and didn't think I'd have time to really talk to it in detail that it deserves.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else with any? I love anything that helps with the watershed. I think that's really important to have that in there. Phil.
Yeah, speaking of just thinking about the green infrastructure work, I just wanted to compliment you all, the city on that 8th Riverside Avenue to 8th Street, quite a significant storage facility for water. It took a couple of years to look for it really to grow out. So I think I passed it pretty much every week, and over the first 2 years, it looked a little rangy and scruffy, and you kind of wondered, these trees going to live? As the picture shows, it's really come along well, and it stores a heck of a lot of, for a big rainfall, it stores a lot of water, and certainly that's one of the predictions that we will see these larger rain events. So this was a great example, and it appears to be working well from my biking past it. So.
Yeah. Glad you brought that up. We're using a lot of those same folks that were involved in the design of that system with this situation with Upper Harbor Terminal. So we're really excited. I'm glad you enjoyed that and are really optimistic about what will happen at the UHT site.
Yeah, good.
Well, unless there's someone else, I want to thank you. Great presentation, and thank you for having the PED and the bikers involved in the planning, and the watershed is like all coming together. So thank you. Any more people have any questions?
I would just say that we are looking for layout approval in October, so it would be very helpful for our team if we got a resolution of support for the project in advance of TPW in October.
Okay. Dan, can you help me with the resolution part? Is that something we do after?
Yeah, I think that's something that we can draft. Is there anybody that would like to work on drafting a resolution? Say something now, or Marty and myself can start to put some stuff together for the general meeting.
Okay, it looks like it's you and I.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So bye.
All right, our next item is Minnehaha and 50th. Is at 30%. Madeline Hudek. Are you here, Madeline? Madeline?
Yes.
Oh,
Hello.
hello.
Hi. Joining me with the presentation is Jody Rader and then Carol Hellstone. I'm sorry, I'm probably not getting your last name quite yet. So I'm Madeline Hudek. I work at the Park Board in the Planning Division, and I am the project manager for the kind of startup and community engagement portion of the Phase 1 implementation project of the Minnehaha Creek Master Plan. Jody, it looks like you're on mute.
Thank you. Maybe we'll just do introductions now. Carol, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Carol Hailstone with Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. I'll be project managing this effort once it's nearing through construction.
Awesome. And I'm Jody Rader, landscape architect with HKGI, and we are working with Stantec on the design and engineering for the implementation projects. And we also worked together with the Park Board on the master plan effort. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'll be doing the majority of the presenting, but Carol and Madeline, please interrupt if I forget something. All right, so we already did introductions. We're just going to give a quick overview of the Minnehaha Parkway Regional Trail Master Plan, and then we'll get into the primary project review and discussion, which is what we're here to talk to you today about. And then we'll go over next steps. So Minnehaha Parkway Regional Trail underwent a master planning process beginning in 2018, and that master plan process spanned about 2 years and culminated in the adoption by the Park Board in November of 2020. We had a very robust community engagement process. Throughout that time, we engaged with the Community Advisory Committee, had a dozen meetings with them, quite a few open houses, a number of MPRB in-houses, interactive web survey, quite a few meetings on site in the neighborhood, and then the Park Board also led quite a few outings with youth groups through the other parks in the city throughout Minnehaha Parkway. And then, like I said, the plan was adopted in 2020, November, and right now we are in the implementation process phase. We anticipate the horizon for this master plan to be 20 to 30 years. We knew going into the master plan process that there would be some funding available at the completion of the project to do some initial projects. And so that is what we are working on right now, identifying and scoping, and then working on the design for some of these initial projects. With the master plan process, this was kind of a three-part or there were three entities that had a lot of involvement in the master plan, not just the park board, but also the city of Minneapolis and Minnehaha Creek Watershed District. And there was a MOU that was signed at the beginning of the project, acknowledging that the three partner organizations would be engaged throughout the planning process, and then also through implementation, trying to identify projects that can be completed together and in cooperation with each other. I'm sure most of you are pretty familiar with Minnehaha Parkway and the trail system. The master plan study area was divided into 4 segments so that we could kind of organize the space a little bit and talk about it within these segments. You'll notice that the study area did not include the segment of the parkway that crosses through Hiawatha and Nokomis. This is because these parks were master planned in 2015, I believe that plan was completed. And so that portion of the parkway already had recommendations, and some of those recommendations have been implemented already. Today, we're going to focus on the recommendations that were gathered in segment 3 around Portland Avenue, Park Avenue, 50th Street. During the master planning process, we heard quite a bit about this area. This is kind of a summary of some of what we heard through the online engagement about this area at Portland, the Bunny area. A lot of comments we gathered were about poor sight lines, dangerous intersection, some inconsistencies in the trail and trail condition, and a lot of traffic kind of backing up in this area that people felt unsafe around. About 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through the master planning process, it seemed apparent that we needed to take a little pause and address some of the issues that were coming up through engagement and with our CAC regarding some of the traffic and some of the recommendations throughout the parkway. And so we put a little pause on the master plan process and commissioned a traffic study with SPAC in 2019. We looked at the conditions around this particular intersection at 50th Street and Minnehaha Parkway. And this diagram is demonstrating some of the anticipated outcomes if this intersection were to be converted into a 3-way stop. Today, there's only a stop sign for the eastbound traffic on 50th Street, and the Parkway traffic does not have any control today. This is a diagram of the master plan focus area recommendations for this area. And you can see that our focus or our primary project area is kind of one of many, many recommendations that came out of the planning process for this area. But with the Community Advisory Committee and MPRB staff and community feedback, we identified this intersection as the highest priority for immediate implementation throughout the entire creek corridor. Some of the other projects that might become part of this scope, depending on funding availability, might be looking at one-way conversion or opposing one-way conversions along the north leg of Minnehaha Parkway here, potentially some upgrades for the area around the bunny sculpture, and looking at potentially some of the medians to restrict some of the turning movements around the trails. So now I'm going to go a little bit more in depth with the primary project. Just a project schedule. Right now we are at the 30% review with you all. We'll be meeting with the Pedestrian Advisory Committee next week. And then I believe the following week we'll be actually reviewing with the CPTF group with the city of Minneapolis. And then we will be doing some community engagement with neighborhood groups, and then taking all the feedback and working on construction documents, planning to return back to the Bicycle Advisory Committee at 60% and 90%, I believe, or maybe I'm misspeaking here. Actually, I think we might be returning back to you all at 90%. And then looking to do bidding and construction administration through 2022. I threw in a couple slides here just for reference if we need to come back to them in our discussion, but this is the project area, aerial view, 50th Street, Minnehaha Parkway. This is actually mislabeled from Google, but this is also Minnehaha Parkway here. And then this is that north leg of Minnehaha Parkway as well. Street view, you can see there's quite a bit of traffic at this intersection. There's a sign today that says signal your turn. You know, this is a pretty confusing intersection, I think, for most users, drivers, pedestrians, and bicyclists. The trail crossing is back here, and I think for drivers, it's not clear, or it's maybe not so apparent that they will be crossing a trail as soon as they kind of get past this intersection. There's some other issues that we're looking at alongside the primary project area, kind of looking at some of the erosion issues and potentially adding a sidewalk along the north side of the parkway. Here's another view of that intersection. The shared use trail is here and then crosses the roadway, and then the trail actually splits. Bikers go south and pedestrians continue across the bridge and then go south along the parkway on the other side of the creek. Another view a little bit further south along Minnehaha Parkway from that intersection. You can see the bike trail is really, it's right at the back of the curb along the roadway. Some trees have kind of made it so that the path is narrowed here and not very consistent, and then sidewalk on the east side of the road. And then one more photo, maybe for reference later if it comes up, but this is actually a little bit further east from the project area, closer to the Bunny, and just showing the Parkway Trail along the south side of the road, and then the north side of the road, there's you know, what the kind of goat path, but no sidewalk today. So the primary project goals: improve visibility of trail users, improve safety of trail users at the intersection, especially at 50th and the Parkway, address legibility of intersection for drivers. Some of the components that we are looking at: realigning the south leg of the intersection to a T. No, I'll be pulling up a diagram in a second. Designed for a future three-way stop controlled intersection, expanding the pedestrian curb ramp areas at the crosswalks. We know that this is one of the most heavily used trails in the park system, and maybe even in the city. And can be quite a bit of volume of pedestrian and bicyclists waiting at the intersections to cross. Upgrading crosswalk markings. We want to use those green and white multimodal continental style crosswalk markings. And then we'll be looking at widening the trail segments to match the master plan recommendations for the parkway, which would be increasing to 12-foot minimum for shared use trails, 14 would be preferred, and then 10-foot minimum for the bicycle trail. Some other considerations we have that are, you know, a factor in the project and factor in the design. We want to try to preserve as many healthy, mature trees as possible. If we can, we'd like to maintain the existing on-street parking in the area and try to limit disturbance of adjacent front yards. This is one section of Minnehaha Parkway where the trail is directly in front of people's homes. So this is the existing project area. As you can see, the shared use trail is here and then crosses right at the curve of Minnehaha Parkway here. And then the bicycle trail continues south. Pedestrians cross the bridge, and then this is the pedestrian trail. The geometry today of the roadway is not conducive to communicating to drivers that they need to stop and yield for pedestrians and bicyclists at this crossing, which is kind of the biggest design move we're looking at. So we are, again, looking at teeing up this intersection, realigning the south leg so that it meets the intersection as close to a 90-degree angle as possible. We are limited a little bit with the geometry because of this existing 50th Street bridge. So we are, like I said, a little bit constrained here. The bridge abutments start right here where my cursor is, and so we can't really push the realignment too much further to the west. This line here is the right of way for the parkway. We're looking at expanding those curb ramps, adding better crosswalk markings, potentially expanding and trying to make this trail width consistent along the shared use trail. And then along with the realignment of the roadway, we're hoping to be able to make the bike trail along the south leg also a consistent width and provide some separation from the roadway here. As I said, right now we're looking at some of these constraints with the existing tree locations, trying to figure out if we can do all of this work without removing any trees. That probably isn't possible, and right now we're with the assistance of MPRB staff taking a closer look at some of those trees. Let's see here. Another sort of component to the project would be moving some of the existing stormwater infrastructure in with the roadway realignment. So there's movement of a few catch basins that would have to happen. And then that would need to be coordinated with this crosswalk as well to make sure that everything is maintained ADA accessible and try to eliminate obstructions in the pathway. See here. I think that's most of what we're looking at in this primary project area. We are working through a preliminary cost estimate right now. And then, as I mentioned, I think some of these issues, we're looking at tree preservation, tree removal, trail widening, on-street parking, and I think today what we'd be looking for are any recommendations or preferred facilities that we should be exploring maybe further in depth in this area. And then our next steps, let's see, this meeting was actually rescheduled. The CPTF meeting will be on the 23rd. Today we're meeting with you all. Bicycle Advisory Committee will be meeting with the Pedestrian Advisory Committee next week. And then in September, we'll be working through engagement process with the neighborhood groups. As I mentioned earlier, there was a pretty robust engagement process to identify the project through the master planning process and identify, I think, in this area, more specific facilities and recommendations than most of the other areas within the master plan study. And so we feel fairly confident in the general scope of the project as far as engagement goes, but we'll be working through informing the neighborhood groups about sort of the details of the project in September. And then we'll be revising that schematic design and scope and then working through design development later in the fall, preparing plans and specs winter of this year, and then we'll be looking to bid the project in the spring, winter of 2022. So that is the project in a nutshell. And If I skipped anything, Madeline or Carol, jump in. Otherwise, we'll open it up for discussion, I think.
All right, anybody want to discuss?
Yeah, Marty, this is Chris.
Okay, Chris.
So I just wanted to jump in quick as both the staff of the BAC and also the liaison for this project for the city of Minneapolis. I think I heard, Jody, you questioning if you would be coming back to this group, and I just wanted to clarify that this would be the like final time for that. So for anyone on the BAC, I think tonight would be the time for a resolution of support or whatever you all feel on this. And then, of course, Jody, Madeline, project team, like if you feel the need or desire to come back, you're always welcome to come back at a later date. But typically 30% is kind of the latest stage that this group will comment on.
Great. Thanks for clarifying. I might have gotten some of my acronyms mixed up on our schedule.
I might have also just misheard, but just wanted to jump in.
Okay, thanks. Jesse, did you still want to? I thought I saw.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Hi, Jody. I was looking at the layout that was attached to the meeting here today. Couple things. Wondering if the trail on the south side of the roadway is going to have markings for bicycle traffic each way, and then also separated pedestrian markings. And part of the reason why I asked that is because I'm seeing the crosswalk markings at the intersection are split out for bikes and for peds. And the bikes one is kind of on the opposite side you'd typically expect, but I could kind of see it here if there was markings on the south portion of that trail there that were kind of keeping bicyclists on the south side of the trail. So wondering if there's markings on the trail.
Yeah, I think we probably, we would like to do the markings and separating both directions of bicycle traffic with the pedestrians, as long as we're able to widen this trail to that 12 or 14 foot width. And so as it is today, there's some inconsistencies in the width of this trail along between the intersections. And I think we need to do a little bit more study with the trees and the existing yards to figure out what that width will ultimately be. If it's remain existing, bump it up to 12 feet, or if we can bump it up to 14 feet. And with the bicyclists, because the bicyclists are splitting off of the shared use trail here and going south, it made sense to us to show the bicyclists crossing or staying to the south through the crosswalk as well as along this segment. But I guess we're open to other recommendations of, from this group.
Anyone with any recommendation? Matthew.
Yeah, that's a good catch, Jesse, and I am like, okay, so my take is if it's shared, it should typically be white only. If it's separated, the bike part should be green and the ped should be white, because I think what would be confusing here is, I think from a traffic operations, shared means you're supposed to, whether you're walking or biking, be on the right side as you're going in the direction you're going. And so here it would sort of require bikes going westbound to take a left and, northbound to take a right, kind of in the same, like head on in a fairly maybe confusing way. So that's my take. I'm curious, Jesse, since you brought that up, what do you think about that? And then I guess MPRB, after hearing this, what do you think as well?
I mean, I think it makes sense to have the bike and the ped crossing, technically bicycle extension lines, and then the pedestrian crossing separate if the trail on the south is marked as having the pedestrian travel way on the north side of it and then the bicycle travel way on the south side of it. But if it's really just a truly going to be a shared use facility, then yeah, just having a fully white painted crosswalk would be good there. Also, I mean, I think there's the other consideration. Could this crosswalk be raised if there's accessibility issues with trying to get ramped down with that wide of a trail too?
Okay. Anyone else?
Oh, I also have one more comment too. Sorry.
Okay.
There's the parking bay that's on the south. Yeah, right there. It's getting pretty close to the sidewalk, and it looks like there's a pinch point there. So in the winter, that sidewalk might be covered with snow. So either if the sidewalk can take more advantage of the right of way at that location, or the parking bay kind of gets like cut off a little bit more, so we have a little bit more space between the sidewalk and the parking bays.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. This parking bay is probably going to go away in the next stage of design, mostly because these trees will not survive this such little room. So we had put this in here to sort of explore if it's possible, trying to, I don't know if you can see the underlay of the existing, trying to maintain about the same distance today for the residents here, but we're going to have to weigh that with maintaining the existing trees. We think the trees will probably win.
Well, I had a couple of questions or I guess thoughts for that western side of the bike path. Yeah, and then up to the southwest corner. One thing I use that trail relatively frequently, and one thing I noticed is a lot of pedestrians end up sharing that path with cyclists for whatever reason. And so considering that like the space, the available space between the creek and the road obviously narrows right there. If there's any way to kind of make that more of that small set, maybe the 12-foot mixed use path you mentioned as the minimum for the master plan, even though it's not technically a mixed use path. So, and then the other thing I was thinking about too was at that curb ramp on the southwest corner. If there's, and maybe my first comment will negate the ability to do this, but kind of trying to figure out a way to kind of rotate that a little bit, that bike path intersection with that corner, rather than being a direct 90-degree angle, which could be tough for someone in motion on a bicycle. Seeing if there's just some way just to get a little bit of decrease in that angle. But otherwise, I should say I'm excited to see that change because also as a frequent rider, there's a lot of uncertainty when you're going to cross that street on that bike path. So it's good to see this change. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone else? Going once, going twice?
Yeah, Philip here.
Okay.
It's really great to see these suggested improvements because people come along, at a pretty good clip. You've got all of a sudden pedestrians, and you're wondering, should I go across the bridge? Do I use the goat path? I mean, if you're a pedestrian, right, I can see why you're suggesting on the north side, Minnehaha, to put a sidewalk, but yeah, signage and wayfinding, and probably some slowing down bikes as they get to this intersections. Some physical cues would be really helpful because I can remember a couple of times feeling like, whoa, I better stop because pedestrians have stopped to kind of look around and figure out what to do, or bicyclists stop and they've got bicycle trailer and they're not sure what to do. So it is confusing. I'm almost imagining a big map, a kiosk, but that it doesn't warrant that much. But signage and wayfinding are gonna be part cues, visual cues.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. I want to thank you for your presentation, and it looks exciting. And good luck with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our last one, and is Amber here? Amber Blanchard.
Yes, I am.
Stone Arch Bridge, construction staging.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Amber Blanchard. I'm the project director for Stone Arch Repair Project with MnDOT Metro District. So let me get the presentation going. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks for the head nod, Jesse. Okay. All right, so I've got a short presentation here. Just want to the repair plans for this. And so we're meeting with you all today, and then next week we're meeting with the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So let me just get into this here. There we go. So we've got a great project team working on this. We've got several offices and people representing MnDOT that you can see on the left, including the Metro District, the Cultural Resource Unit here at MnDOT, since the bridge is historic, the Bridge Office, and we have an architectural historian through McDonald and Mack Architects that is included in our project team. And then Bridge Engineer is LHB Incorporated. They're based out of Duluth, and they've done a lot of bridge repair work and design for MnDOT over the years. The work types that we have on this repair project, just really quickly, include full repointing of the masonry, the mortar that is on the structure, and that is including the entire bridge. So all faces and underneath the arch spans as well. We're going to be doing some repairs to the stone cracking, the minor stone cracking that we are seeing in some locations. We are going to replace severely deteriorated stone. It's really not that much in the full context of the entire bridge itself, but a small percentage has deteriorated quite a bit that we will be looking to replace. We're going to be repairing the weep drains, or the drains that basically come out of the side of the structure, as a lot of those have deteriorated as well. The metal tie rods, we're going to repair some of those and clean them up and restore them, at least on the outside. And then we're also going to repair and install a scour monitoring system and some pier protection at the base of the piers. So we have a lot of repair work that we're going to be doing throughout the entire bridge, but most of the work is going to be with regard to that full repointing and the stone replacement. So what I'm here today to talk to you about and get some feedback on is access and staging. You all know this is a really unique area with between the two locks and the horseshoe dam there as well. And so access is an issue, and we want to make sure that our contractor has the best options and that are cost effective for us as well. So with that, we're recommending staging half at a time. This depiction that you see here is what we would have for our first stage. And basically, to describe this a little bit, hopefully you can see my cursor here. What we would do is we would basically split the bridge somewhere, not quite in the middle, but it looks like right now we're kind of targeting where the truss span is or starts. And what we would do is we would close off the bridge to bikes and peds and work on one side of the bridge. So we're proposing to do the east side first. A couple of reasons for this is the east side will be done in concurrence with the park board's project that they have on Father Hennepin Park. They're going to be doing a construction at the same time our bridge is under construction. So we thought timing that would be really good. as well as I know the city has some public works projects going on this fall and next fall for some sewer lines, storm sewer that is taking place on the west side, on the west bank at the same time. So we wanted to make sure we had enough access for that work to get underneath the bridge over here and to coordinate the closure of for construction of the Father Hennepin Park on the east side. So what we would do, and before I go there, really some of the reasons that we decided to do this is it really lets the contractor work in an efficient manner and does have some possible cost reduction for us. This project is extremely difficult to fund because it is not on the trunk highway. So we had to find some very special funds to use that were not trunk highway funds in order to do the repair work on this project. So we do have a budget. It is 15 million. We did get $1 million from the legislature in 2018, and we're using much of that to do the design and engineering work to get ready to go. And then we also have $2 million that we are using from our Minnesota Rail Bank Fund, as well as some federal funding, which is the 13 million, so, or excuse me, 12 million. So that rounds into our $15 million budget. And all of my salary working on this and our construction inspection, our design and inspection work, our design contract with our consultants, all have to come from those 3 pots of money. Another reason we decided to go this route is we are looking at a way to get a more secure work area. We don't want bikes and peds to go back and forth and interact with the contractor as little as possible, so that we can make sure we can secure the area and then allow the contractor, like I had mentioned before, the free access and efficiency to do what they need to do to get the construction done as quickly as possible. I will point out that we will still have full access for the public to part of the bridge. So in this first stage, the public will be able to come from the west bank on the west end, go to the truss span, look around, and then turn around and come back. And there also will be an allotment for emergency vehicles to turn around in that same area. So there is still full access to at least part of the bridge during construction. And then of course, safety of the traveling public is on our minds as well. And we feel this is a safe staging scheme that will make sure that both the contractor's personnel and the traveling public are safe during construction. So I wanted to show you here the second stage on right on the right side here. The second stage is really just the opposite of the first stage. It would include the work on the west side, and actually more of the bridge would be accessible to the public during the second stage as they come from the east here, and really have access all the way to the truss span. Again, we would have the truss span as a turnaround area for any emergency vehicles to get back out from the east side. And then that would essentially allow, again, the contractor to have the full access to the west side to continue construction and finish it all out. So, like I said, this is a short presentation. Really, our next steps include the following. So we did have 30% plans and special provisions that were provided in June. So that is complete. We're looking for, in September, we'll have the 60% plans and special provisions as a deliverable for review. In addition to that, towards the after Labor Day, sometime in the beginning or middle of September, we're going to be doing the same type of presentation to the neighborhood groups and letting them know about the access and staging scenario that I just presented to you, and get some feedback from them on that scenario. And then in December, we have our Section 106 consulting party meeting again, as well as our 90% plan deliverable. And then in February, We will be submitting all the project information to get ready for bid to get the contractor on board. We have a more lengthy ad time because we're doing a special best value or pre-qualification of our contractors, since we don't normally do masonry structure repair all the time. So we want to make sure that we get the right contractor to do the work well. We are going to then receive bids from contractors in August 10th. We're actually exactly a year away from receiving those bids. And then sometime in September or October, it usually takes anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks for the award of the contract to go to the contractor. So we're somewhere in the range of September, October of next year is when construction will begin. Now, I know that the 3rd Avenue Bridge is under construction right now, and right now they are on schedule to open up the entire bridge in November of 2022. And so that means we're only going to have roughly about a month overlap between the two projects getting done. And Chris Hoberg and I have been talking about this for a long, long time. And we are pretty confident right now that there won't be any issues between this project starting and 3rd Avenue getting completed. But if there are any that arise, we'll make sure to kind of cross that bridge, pun intended, when we get there. So we're not anticipating anything, but as of right now, there could be a schedule risk there, but we'll see how things go on 3rd Avenue as we get to that point. So really, at this point, that's all the information I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. But again, I'm just looking for some feedback on what you think about the staging considerations here.
Does anyone have any recommendations or questions or? Go ahead, Dan.
Yes, how long do you plan? It's a two-part question. The first part is, how long is construction going to take place? What's the?
Yep. Yes. Right now we're anticipating two years. So, or at least 2 construction seasons. The unfortunate part is the amount of time it's going to take for the construction is really based off of the repointing of the mortar, because we're repointing the entire bridge, and that activity is very labor intensive. So even if we close the bridge, we wouldn't still be able to complete it in a shorter duration because of the fact that the mortar just takes so much longer. So we are anticipating a 2-year construction.
Would there be periods of time in that where, I mean, does it have to stay closed the entire time, or could there be times where it could be opened up?
You know, that's a good question. Right now we're anticipating that it would be closed the entire time. We can take a look at that and see if there are any possibilities of opening it up at any point. The staging areas that we have available to the contractor for storing of materials is pretty limited as well, based on the locations surrounding the bridge itself. And so we are anticipating that even though we're probably not going to have a crane or anything out there, we'll still have some equipment out there as well that could utilize a lot or take up a lot of room. So at this point, we're just thinking that it'll be closed completely, but we can certainly look into that.
And I'm not sure what the schedule on the 10th Avenue Bridge is, 10th Street, 10th Avenue. What will you be involved with being able to? I mean, people need to get detoured around this thing. Will you have a detour plan?
Yes, we will have a detour plan. Yep, that's in the works right now. We should be getting it for the 60% submittal, although I have not seen it yet. And likely the detour will be 3rd Avenue for the most part, but we have not put that together yet. So that is forthcoming, correct.
Thanks, Dan. Anyone else? Phil?
Wow, 2 years is a long time. I mean, it's such a oh, there's just a lot of traffic, although I don't know the actual counts compared to other places like the Greenway, but my mind just goes to, might there be times where staging area materials storage could be done at the river level, down where the the breakwaters are, so that there could be periods, pre-announced periods where people can plan to, bring their, friends, neighbors, visitors over the bridge. Yeah, I don't know. It might be something to have Dan, Marty, to think about a resolution around that. But it's 2 years. People will be kind of shocked, I think. So.
Sure. No, that's a good point. Yeah. One of the things we're doing is we're going to have access from barges underneath the bridge and from above as well. So it's going to be kind of a two-pronged approach. So we will definitely look into that and see if there are any times where we can, maybe we can prioritize getting some of the work done from the bridge itself on the deck to below done right away, so that maybe we wouldn't be able to or wouldn't have to keep it closed for that long. But we will certainly look into that. Yes, that's a great comment.
I don't see any hands. Quick question. Are you looking for a resolution? And this is to the committee. Are we going to do a resolution on this? Do we need to do a resolution on this? Anyone?
I think it wouldn't hurt to have a resolution just so that, just so MnDOT and, others sort of know that it's concerning, and obviously the 15 million is a hard stop, but to the extent possible for any times to open up the full bridge, I think just a resolution around that would be good.
Okay, and what's the timeline?
I would think that maybe we can work on a resolution and bring it to the full BAC.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Matthew. That makes sense to me from a timeline perspective. I don't think there's any urgency or any need to delay, I guess. So this month sounds right to me.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your presentation. Oh, wait, one more person.
Hi, Marty. This is Dan. Just a question. Since we're focusing on 3rd Avenue as the detour, is there any, I don't know where 10th Street's at or bridge number 9, but definitely people are going both directions when they go over. And it seems that if this thing is going to be closed for a length of time, that we really need to be looking at detours going both sides. And I think that that's something that we could put into our resolution and just comment on that as well.
Okay. Well, thank you for your presentation, and good luck with it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
And we'll be working on the resolution, okay?
Sounds great. I'll be in touch with you, Matthew.
All right, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, group. So I think I missed a resolution on the second item that we had on. We were going to make a resolution on the Minnehaha 50th. Do we make a resolution on that at 30%?
I'm sorry, who was that for?
I'm just asking, Dan, are we supposed to make a resolution for this?
I think we could we could work on some drafts, and I know that Aaron had some thoughts on this. What I prefer to do is, if the group feels that we should be doing a resolution on this, Marty, it'd be nice to get something put together this week that we can put out to the people that attended this meeting, just to make sure that we've captured the spirit of the conversation. and then be able to work that into the for the full BAC the following on the third week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Aaron.
So, Aaron, if you are interested in taking that on,
Yeah, I could try to draft something.
Thank you. That'd be great. Okay. Is there anything else, I guess, that we need to talk about? I know we'll work on the notes, so we'll get the notes out. Please make sure you take a look at it and make sure we're not missing anything. So we'll try to send something out. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Anyone? All right, well, it is 5:20, what, 5:28? Wow. All right. Oh, look.
Nice job, Marty.
Pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah, good meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, have a good evening, everybody.
You too.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.